Hello, my name is Anita Radini and I am assistant professor at the School of Archaeology, University College, Dublin. My presentation is titled Teeth, Fibercraft and Health, What Experimental Archaeology Could Tell Us About the Textile Workers of the Ancient World. This presentation aims to present my preliminary thoughts regarding the experimental archaeology work needed to better understand the evidence of textile fiber in ancient human dental calculus. So, the production of textile is a very ancient human craft and is one of the most important activity in human history. The wealth of entire empires was built upon the production and trade of textile. It is, however, safe to say that textile workers today and in the past can experience very unhealthy working conditions with serious impact on their physical well-being. An example is the posture they need to hold for hours has a huge impact on bones. The raw materials used in the production of textiles, such as wool and other fibers, in high concentration can be detrimental to human health. Moreover, such fibers can carry bacterial and other microscopic organisms nesting in the fiber, effectively causing potential problems to the respiratory system. This is to just name a few. Now, this presentation has some image showing skeletal remains, so I want to add this warning that the following slide contains a graphic image of ancient skeletal remains. So, microscopic remains of fibers such as cotton, bast fiber, like flax, for example, and wool have been retrieved from an unusual deposit on ancient human teeth known as dental calculus. Dental calculus is also known as tartar. It consists of mineralized dental plaque, a biofilm formed on teeth by bacterial activity in the oral cavity. During its formation process, dental calculus can incorporate a variety of microscopic particles from the environment surrounding the individual, which can be useful to understand the type of dust people was exposed to during life. Among these dust particles, some of the most common ones are consistent with fibers of plant and animal origin that are probably generated by the production and use of textile, either one or the other, or a combination of both. Evidence of fibers in dental calculus matrix is widespread across different periods of human history and diverse geographic locations, but it is difficult to interpret. The range of particulates of textile fiber that have been found in calculus range from flax, I would say flax/nettle/hemp, because in small fragments and they're difficult to distinguish. There is potentially wool and even cotton that have been found. Warning that the following two slides contains graphic image of ancient skeletal remains. So the potential textile fibers like wool or cotton that are found in dental calculus are very interesting because they can also be linked to pathology on the skeleton, like for example dental wear or evidence of diseases like tuberculosis that in certain regions in the past, like Rome and Venetia in northeast of Italy, were associated, for example, to textile work, hence linking a craft to a consequence of its practice on human health. A good example of this is the recent work published in the volume Purpureae Vestes, where the evidence of fibers in dental calculus was associated with dental wear and to skeletal evidence of tuberculosis. However, there are some issues in the study of these lines of evidence, and I'll tell them in the next slide. So the potential issues that we have with this evidence are different. The first is that the identification of fibers can be problematic. Some fibers cannot be distinguished from those found in many plants ingested for food. So the identification is difficult. Not all forms of textile production leave traces on the skeletons, so often there are no skeletal markers that support the hypothesis that the fibers found in dental calculus are indeed of craft origin. Textile fibers are ubiquitous in the dust of modern environments, and it would be for sure the same in ancient times. This because textiles were and are used today in so many objects and clothes, and they deteriorate fast, producing dust. So the link between fibers in calculus and the practicing of textile production can be quite tricky to make. There is, however, some hope. There is growing body of evidence that show that microscopic particles of dust enter the mouth during food preparation and crafting activity. So there is experimental work on the flux of particles in the human mouth. Such experimental work is needed, but it is still very little applied in archaeology. It is safe to state that if we aim to correctly interpret the evidence from dental calculus, more experimental archaeology work is needed. Realistic textile production from growing the crop and to processing it, it's very important. So one of the aspects that is very important to understand in the flux of textile fiber in the ancient human mouth is the textile production from seeds to textile, and that it needs to happen in very realistic ways. For example, modern agriculture and technology can alter the mechanical properties of many fibers, changing the way they break down, and therefore the typology of dust produced. So when approaching the subject of textile production evidence in ancient human dental calculus, it is important that the experimental work is conducted with textile fiber that have been grown in organic farming and in a way that is as similar as possible to the way they would have grown in the period of time considered in the experiment conducted. That's essential. It is also important that the chain operatoire, so realistic chain operatoire. Another important aspect to understand of the flux of particles of the textile that enter the human mouth is that the experimental world needs to use appropriate fiber associated with the correct technology. My preliminary data showed that, for example, the quantity of dust produced during textile work vary hugely depending on the type of fiber for use. For example, the processing of flax generates a huge amount of microscopic fibers of flax that enter the mouth. So we desperately need a lot of data and reference collection that look at differences in dust produced by different textile technologies with different type of fiber. Such data will provide important information on the effect on respiratory health of different forms of textile production through time. So to sum up, we need more data from experimental work. This is very true. We need to assess the type of particulate matter that enter the human mouth during textile productions versus that normally present in the environment. We need to assess how their characteristics and number varies depending on the type of fiber and technology used. Once we have a better idea of the above aspects, we will have a very important tool to interpret the textile fiber found in dental calculus and inevitably important information on the impact the textile production had on human health. Thank you for your attention, and this was a brief presentation that aims to pick a little bit the brain of people that work on textile on here, and to look at textile, at experimental archaeology in textile production by a different standpoint for the way the textile were made. Thank you.